Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service, as well as on our delayed broadcast through our YouTube channel. And you can hear us live on our audio streaming through PBS Evox receiver app. Also on our shortwave broadcast through the shortwave frequencies in the English program. That's 15.640 megahertz, 17.750 megahertz, and 21.720 megahertz, which can be heard from 200 to 3:30 hours UTC. And this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Let's begin Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Okay, so last week, particularly on Friday, a report that former party list lawmaker Zaldico has been apprehended by Czech authorities, that's in Europe, for allegedly crossing into a German border. But now we receive a report coming from a former lawmaker and former lawmaker, which is Attorney Harry Roque, saying that the former Ako Bicol party list representative Zaldico was not arrested. So what's the truth behind? What is the truth? Is Zaldico has been arrested or is not, and what are the implications of his arrest as he faces trials and charges in regards to the flood control controversy? And to give us more insights and more details regarding that development, we now have on the line the Undersecretary of the Department of Justice, Undersecretary Raul Vasquez. Good morning, Yusek Vasquez. Thank you so much for joining us in the program Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Jerome, and good morning to your listeners and to your viewers.
All right, let's begin our discussion for today regarding the arrest of former party list lawmaker Zaldico. Please tell us, was former party list representative Zaldico really arrested in Czech Republic? Because critics say he was not arrested, and that statement was made Sunday night here in the Philippines. So what's the latest update on that as far as the DOJ or Justice Department is concerned, Yusek?
Actually, Jerome, the agency that has direct coordination with the Czech authorities is the DFA. And the details as to the so-called arrest because of lack of documentation, probably the cancelled passport of former Representative Saldico. Those matters, the details are still not clear and not available because the Czech authorities are mum about the details. And our DFA as well is following or complying with the request of the Czech government because of their internal rules. We have to consider that the internal domestic rules and regulations of the Czech Republic would be followed strictly in this particular case. So we just have to give due course to the process and await for further developments.
But initial reports, Yusek Vasquez, that former Representative Zaldico has been arrested due to immigration violation. Is that correct?
That's true, and that was also declared by our authorities as well, including our president.
Okay. And to make it clear, he was not arrested by Czech authorities due to existing Interpol notice. We are aware that there is an Interpol notice that was charged against him, but because he violated immigration and visa rules in that particular country.
These two processes are two different things, Jerome. The immigration violation is anchored on the lack of documentation. So therefore, um, if we are to follow the usual procedures, he was arrested because he is an undocumented alien
Okay.
there because of the cancelled passport. On the other hand, the request for issuance of red notice is anchored on the fact that there is a pending case. There are three pending cases actually before Sandigan Bayan against him,
Mm.
and where warrants of arrest had been issued. And on that basis, the process is ongoing as far as I know, based on the records.
I see. And you mentioned Yusek Vasquez about the lack of documentation that Representative Zaldico has. So is this lack of documentation? Is this in European laws? Is that heavy or a heavy violation?
Certainly, just like any country, if a foreigner would enter a country without proper documentation, he is liable to get arrested, detained, and immediately deported. In the case of former Representative Saldico, I understand that the DFA canceled his passport
Yes.
because he is already a fugitive from justice. Remember that there are three pending warrants for his arrest, and the fact that he is not arrested, he is
Mm-hmm.
running away from the long arm of the law.
Yes.
He is a fugitive from justice, and on that basis, administratively, the DFA exercised one of its authorities, one of its prerogatives under the new Passport Act.
And that is to cancel the passport of the lawmaker because he's facing charges in relation to the flood control controversy. Okay,
Correct.
all right. And also, the Interpol red notice is now being taken or is still pending. That's on top of what Zaldico's situation right now, being apprehended by Czech authorities.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
The red notice is actually a mode by which law enforcement agencies would help other countries, the requesting country, for example, would the requesting country would demand the arrest, the search, the identification search, and the arrest of a certain person, and eventually the surrender of that person to the requesting party, based on their um, obligations under the Interpol Convention.
Okay. I understand, Yusek Vasquez, that this matter is in between foreign affairs departments of Manila and Prague. But has there been existing or initial discussion between Manila and Prague's Justice Department so far?
Justice, our the DOJ.
Yes, yes, and their
As far
Ministry of
as
Justice.
I know, it's just the DFA.
Okay.
It's conducting the direct coordination with them. It all depends on what the Czech authorities would demand for us to implement this. Then, if any other agency, including the DOJ, would be requested by the authorities there in order to facilitate the immediate transfer of um, former Representative Saldico, then we will have to comply. In other words, the primary consideration here, Jerome, is the internal domestic laws of the Czech Republic.
I'm sorry. Just for context, Yusek Vasquez, how severe is the penalty that visa or immigration violators may face in Europe? Would there be a imprisonment or a huge fine that will be applied here?
Actually, when you are arrested or detained because of immigration violation, normally, just like in the Philippines, the penalties there would just be one, deportation,
Mm.
and two, fines.
Okay.
The imprisonment aspect there is only because of your being detained by the immigration authorities. You are not being detained there because of a penalty or a judgment by the court because of your violation of their criminal laws.
Okay.
But again, the internal procedures, laws, and regulations of that country would have to be honored under the concept of independence and sovereign rights of every country.
Okay. Since you mentioned about the deportation possibility, for example, if a Filipino citizen caught violating immigration laws or visa policies, so how big is the chance for a Filipino citizen to be sent back or deported to the country? How long will the process be, Yusek?
It all depends on the internal processes of that country. It could be as fast as a week or a month, and it all depends also on the legal procedures and the um, requirements that that country has in respect to all these questions. But at the end of the day, it is a process that must be followed strictly to the letter also because of that need for us to respect the laws of an equally sovereign state.
Mm. Okay. And also, I wonder, Yusek Vasquez, if DOJ will also represent in this case, as DFA will spearhead this development.
Well, Jerome, this is an all government approach. Every decision, every action of the present administration is anchored on an all government approach. Certainly, the Department of Justice is being its opinion. It's being solicited on the legal aspect
Mm, okay.
as to what legal processes would be best available. In fact, just to put in context,
Mm,
this is not the first time that a country without which we don't have any extradition treaty could be the source of some kind of cooperation. The Czech Republic is a signatory to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption.
mm,
Both the Philippines and the Czech Republic are signatories to that, and we are bound to promote the obligations therein. Among those obligations would be the duty to cooperate and assist in the investigation, transfer of certain individuals, prosecution, even cooperation in respect to properties, forfeiture of assets, transfer of custody, etc. And that's within the UNCAC. On another point, just like in the case of Mary Jane Veloso, with respect to Indonesia, then we didn't have any. We didn't also have any extradition treaty with Indonesia.
mm,
But because of international committee and international respect, mutual respect between two member countries of the ASEAN and the UN, we were able to secure custody to effect the transfer of a certain sentenced Filipino in Indonesia to the Philippines. And that's without any bilateral treaty. In other words, the absence of any bilateral treaty is not actually a prohibition against deportation or any kind of cooperation between two member countries of the UN, and especially if you're signatories to a convention of the UN.
Okay, so that's the difference between deporting a criminal from a country with existing deportation treaty versus a country without existing deportation treaties. And there's two parameters that you presented here, Yusek Vasquez. So being a member of a UN Council Against Corruption, and also mutual respect between two
Correct.
countries.
International Committee.
International Committee. Okay. Okay. And also, you mentioned about the absence of treaty. Can you expound more of that, Yusek Vasquez?
We don't have any extradition treaty with the Czech Republic. But under the UNCA, there are legal remedies there that are available to member countries, especially in their mutual fight against corruption. Remember that the cases that are pending against former Congressman Saldico, these are all serious cases of graft and corruption.
Yes,
So
right.
they really fall squarely under the mandate and under the auspices of the United Nations
Yes,
Convention Against
right.
Corruption.
Oh,
On top of that, both the Philippines and the Czech Republic are responsible member states of the United Nations, and therefore they are bound to assist each other in respect to their respective interest.
okay, that's very clear. And the two countries is the Philippines and Czech Republic are part of this UN Council Against Corruption. Okay, so let's proceed here. Should he return to the country, be deported back in the country? But first, how long would that take if we are going to or to follow these two parameters? How long will the process be?
It all depends, actually, as I mentioned earlier, Jerome, on the internal policies,
Internal.
laws, and jurisdiction and
Okay.
procedures of the Czech Republic. The DFA is trying its best. We are pretty certain of that, of facilitating the early and immediate transfer. So it could be as fast as a week, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
3 weeks, or a month, or depending on the circumstances. The
Oh,
fact of the
yeah.
matter is we have to follow the processes.
Yep. Just
And
fine.
those processes are the processes in the Czech Republic.
Okay. Okay, got it. And that depends on the of how our diplomats will talk to their counterparts, and if it's going to be cordial or it will be a lengthy process. So it all depends on our diplomats there. Okay, so that's a point taken there, Yusek Vasquez. Okay, so now let's proceed here. If
Or
representative or former
actually, the word
lawmaker.
is once. Once he is transferred here, because sooner than later he will be
Yes.
transferred. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
once he is
Okay.
transferred.
All right. Okay. Okay. So now, for example, Representative Zaldico is in the country. He's been deported by the foreign entities or authorities. Who will be in charge of his custody, Yusek?
Okay. Based on experience with respect to Mary Jane Baloso, and with respect to the two persons deprived of liberty, Filipinos, OFWs, who were also charged and who were serving sentences in jail in Kuwait, we were also able to effect their transfer even in the absence of any treaty between the two countries. First, with Indonesia with respect to Beloso, and with Kuwait with respect to the two OFWs. Um, when they were transferred here, initially all of them were arrested by the immigration authorities, and they were turned over to our Bureau of Immigration here. Once the
Mm,
after the Bureau of Immigration received custody, gained custody of the subject persons,
mm,
they would be processed in an immediate fashion once they're here, and then they would be turned over to the law enforcement agencies, the PNP, in this particular instance. So I would suppose that the same process would be had.
mm,
The PNP, which would later on be holding on to them based on the warrants of arrest pending against former Representative
mm,
Ko. He will then be surrendered, or he would be brought to the Sandigan Bayan, the court that issued the warrants, for the so-called return of the warrants. Thereafter, it would then be the Sandigan Bayan that would decide where this particular accused would be serving jail time as a
mm.
detention prisoner.
Ah, okay. 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 So the path here, Yusek Vasquez, would be Bureau of Immigration, and then after
Initially,
that,
initially, if
initially.
it yeah, if it would be the immigration authorities of the Czech Republic that would be effecting the transfer.
Ah, okay. All right. And after that, that will be turned over to our
Law
police force, the
enforcement.
PNP, and
Yes.
then after that, it will be turned over to Sandigan Bayan, so that because there, as mentioned and as laid here, there are three pending charges against him.
The return,
There is
that's a technical term. The warrants of arrest would be returned to the court that issued
yeah.
them, including the body of the person
Ah, okay.
subject of, parang ito yung surrender, parang
Yes,
ganun.
that's right. Okay, and after that, the court or the Sandigan Bayan will decide where he will be serving his jail time
Yeah, as a detention
as
prisoner.
a detention prisoner. Okay, got it. Also, I would like to ask this, Yusek Vasquez, how would the DOJ ensure that former lawmakers' security will be observed upon his return to the country? If you can ask.
Actually, it would be the duty of the BI initially for a short period of time,
Mm,
and later on, the remainder would have to be assured. The security would have to be assured by the PNP, because eventually PNP would gain custody of him,
mm,
and
mm.
he would be booked. He would be subjected to medical, etc., because of the warrants of arrest.
I see. Okay. I understand, Yusek Vasquez, that the DOJ has a separate case filed against Zaldico, but would he be allowed to face or testify before Congress to reveal his knowledge on the flood control scandal?
I think there wouldn't be any legal obstacle against that, because just like in the case of Alice Goa, um, she was also facing cases before the courts, and she was also a detention prisoner.
Mm-mm.
all the all the other branches of government, including Congress, all they had to do was to request the court for permission or clearance for them to appear before any hearing that they would conduct. In other words, it's just a question of securing prior court clearance, court permission
Okay.
for the appearance of these persons. I don't think there would be any problem with that particular option.
Okay, got it. Okay, and last few points, Yusek Vasquez, anything that former lawmaker Zaldico will say on record, either in Congress or or when he grants media interview, it will be used for its case build-up against personalities involved in the flood control anomaly.
That's uh,
Yusek Vasquez?
that's the wish of everybody,
Yes.
because he needs to clear up certain aspects. He is deemed as a principal player in the flood control corruption cases.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he would be uh, having that opportunity to spill the beans, so to speak, that would certainly be useful in the prosecution of cases. But that first, he has to do these things formally
Mm-hmm.
in an affidavit form, I suppose, or in a testimony before the courts. For these pieces of information or the evidence that he will be setting forth, for these pieces to be considered in the prosecution of other personalities who are
Mm-hmm.
involved, who may be involved in these corruption cases.
Mm. Okay. After all, of this development, it's not an immediate. The return of Zaldico would not happen immediately. It will take time, and it's a matter of time if this case will be rolling. So we will have to
Yeah.
wait and see
Unless
on that.
that is one aspect that is very fast,
Very
the
fast.
so-called self-deportation. If he decides not to contest his being deported back to the Philippines,
Yeah.
and he agrees to be repatriated voluntarily and intelligently, in a matter of a day or two, he would be brought here. It
Okay.
all depends on the what process would be followed, what kind.
Mm-mm.
Would there be objection on his part? Would there be availment of legal proceedings and so on and so forth? So all of these are factors to be considered, Jerome, in the determination of how long and how tedious, how lengthy the
Mm-mm.
process would take.
That,
And as I said, there is a very fast way, self-deportation.
yes, that's
We
right.
hope that we hope that the light will shine on him, so that
Yes.
it's paid to come here, and that resolves all questions.
That's right. That's right. I agree, Yusek Vasquez, and it's all on hands on Representative Ko. It's all his decision if he's going to cooperate or not.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
got it. All right, and with that, thank you so much for joining us in the program to discuss these matter. Yusek or Undersecretary Raul Vasquez of the Department of Justice.
Thank you very much, Jerome, for the opportunity, and good morning to all.
Okay. And front and center will be right back after these short messages coming your way.
Mas pinadali na ang government transactions sa tulong ng eGov PH Super App. Pwedeng-pwede mo nang magawa ang lahat ng ito. I-download ang eGov app sa iyong smartphone o tablet mula sa App Store o Google Play Store. Pagkatapos, ilagay ang iyong mobile number at i-authenticate gamit ang one-time PIN o OTP para marehistro ang iyong account. Saka ilagay ang iyong mga pangunahing impormasyon at kumpletuhin ang facial recognition technology para sa verifikasyon ng iyong pagkakakilanlan. Para sa mas mabilis at mas maayos na serbisyong panggobyerno, gamitin na ang eGov PH Super App.
Mabilis ang trivia, dagdag talino. Heto na ang Dagling Kaalaman.
Alam mo ba, ang tamang charging habits ay nakatutulong para mas humaba ang buhay ng iyong cellphone battery. Iwasan ang palaging 0% bago mag-charge. Mas mabuti kung nasa 20% hanggang 80% lang ang isang cycle. Huwag ding iwanang nakasaksak magdamag dahil kahit may auto cut-off, unti-unti ring naaapektuhan ang battery health. At kung kaya, gumamit ng original or certified chargers para mas ligtas at mas matagal ang performance ng iyong phone. Para laging game-ready ang gadget, charge smart, not hard.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dagling Kaalaman.
Paano nga ba mag-register para magkaroon ng schedule sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center? Narito ang mga dapat gawin. Gamit ang iyong mobile device, pumunta sa eGov PH app. Pwede itong i-download mula sa Apple App Store o sa Google Play Store. Gumawa ng account. Ilagay ang email address, valid mobile number, pagkatapos ay makakatanggap ka ng one-time code sa iyong email. Gamitin ang code sa eGov app para sa verification ng iyong account at ng mga impormasyong ibinigay. Congratulations! Meron ka ng eGov PH app account. Pwede mo na ma-access ang iba't ibang serbisyo ng gobyerno kabilang ang mga serbisyo sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Still with me, Jerome Toledo, and we're down to a few minutes of our program. But we'll deliver some developments here in the Philippines, particularly on the actions of the government. As Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. spent last week leading a series of government actions addressing rising global fuel prices, food affordability, and ongoing disinformation about his health. And that's on top of the discussions regarding the arrest of Zaldico that we just discussed with Justice Department's Undersecretary Raul Vasquez. And the president is very busy on taking care or being on top of the situation that is due to the crisis brought about by the Middle Eastern conflict that affects the oil prices and eventually affecting our economy. And with that, Malacanang rolled out fiscal and supply side measures, including the signing of Executive Order Number 114, suspending excise taxes on liquefied petroleum gas or LPG and kerosene for 3 months. So that was announced last week. And the move followed recommendations from the Development Budget Coordination Committee or DBCC after crude prices breached the trigger level under Republic Act 12316. And the suspension is expected to lower household energy costs and will be reviewed monthly. So that's the commitment. And the administration maintained that value-added tax on petroleum products will stay in place, with officials noting that revenues fund subsidies and assistance program. And fuel relief efforts continued through the 10 peso per liter subsidy for affected sectors, service contracting for transport workers, and fare discounts for commuters. Also on food security, the president ordered tariff reduction on select imported items with safeguards for local producers alongside steps to cut logistics costs such as lowering port fees and waiving toll charges for vegetable trucks. And he also led last week the rice subsidy distribution in the city of Manila and expected the vegetable trading center in the Benguet province to assess the impact of fuel costs on vegetable supply. And also, last week, President Marcos Jr. launched nationwide reintegration services for returning overseas Filipino workers in Tacloban City in Leyte, with government data showing more than 5,000 overseas Filipino workers and dependents have returned amid tensions in the Middle East. And the chief executive also announced the arrest of former lawmaker Zaldico, which was discussed earlier, who faces graft and malversation charges linked to alleged irregularities in flood control projects. And now, as we speak, coordination with Czech authorities is ongoing. And in diplomatic engagement, President Marcos Jr. received the Omani ambassador and accepted the credentials of 6 non-resident ambassadors, with discussions centered on bilateral cooperation. And also, since last week and even a few weeks ago, this issue has been going on across social media platforms and also in mainstream media, because the president addressed those rumors about his health, saying he remains fit and continues to perform official duties. Meanwhile, the Presidential Communications Office filed legal action against those media accounts or social media accounts accused of spreading false information about his condition. So there you have it, the activities of the president from last week, and I'm pretty sure the president is will do everything to be on top of this situation, given that the situation in the Middle East is ongoing. It's volatile, and as we heard, the Strait of Hormuz is closed again for oil trade or maritime trade because of the continuously conflicting messages coming from Iran and the United States. So we will have to wait and see on that, and how is this going to affect the oil prices. And as we mentioned, the oil prices will surely affect our economy. And with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our technical team headed by Ms. Susan Aizon, on Warcast we have Ms. Justine Ocias, and this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.